You've heard about Trump's fight with Harvard University. There's been a lot of push and pull on Harvard. They've refused to comply with Kristi Noem's requests for information about their student population and the criminal activities that some of their students may have been involved in. Trump, of course, has tried to prevent them from being allowed to take in any more foreign students. And now he is saying, we're cutting off your contracts. You're not getting contracts anymore. This is ridiculous. You guys are a shameful institution. And Harvard is fighting back. They keep countersuing and doing all the things. And here's a news report about how this is impacting Harvard. I can't remember what station it is.
Confounded about what's going on, which is remarkable. Harvard is facing an existential, perhaps untenable crisis here. They've lost billions of dollars in funding for shared research. The latest action last week to block Harvard from enrolling international students. That's a quarter of its student body. In their lawsuit, Harvard explains this as without this group of students, Harvard is not Harvard. And to be facing this sort of crisis and not really understand what is happening around him, I think is pretty telling. What is the end goal here? I mean, the end goal here is to inflict maximum pain on Harvard. We reported that there are people involved in this effort who set out wanting to topple a university to send a message, to have a scalp for the rest of academia, that this sort of unchecked liberalism that this administration sees happening on elite campuses around the country, it has to come to an end.
Listen, if they're going to get federal funding, then they need to answer questions, and they're not compliant. They're being way too defiant. It's like if I were getting money from all of you guys, and then you were like, hey, Daisy, give us an accounting of what you're doing with XYZ. I'd have to give that to you. That's just part of the deal. When you take money from people, you need to know that there are going to be strings attached to that. Well, some of the strings attached with Harvard is that they need to comply with some questions. And
all they actually need to do is take care of their Jewish students. This was not a hard ask, but they're the ones that have escalated this.
It's a great point.
I mean,
apparently they don't want to do that.
They don't want to do that.
They don't want to do that because the Jews. So, I mean, they're just being way too defiant here. It costs almost $80,000 a year to go to Harvard. It was it's a well-respected, or it's been respected, a respected university in the past. I think that they're digging a hole, man. They're just digging a big hole, and they're blaming it on Trump, but that's dumb because all you gotta do is answer some damn questions. And then the question I have is, why are 30% of your students foreign? It's an American university. I have a big problem with that. And I will always have a problem with that. I don't like to see that at any of our American universities. 30% of your student body should not be foreign. It's an American university. Make it American, like America first.
They're trying to say without that 30%, then Harvard isn't Harvard anymore. And
why?
What I said back to, I don't even remember who, on Twitter about that line, about them saying, without those students, Harvard isn't Harvard anymore. Harvard hasn't been Harvard since they accepted David Hogg, unironically, into their institution.
Exactly.
I mean, totally. I'm sorry, the guy can't even spell.
No.
Like, he can't speak like a normal person. And they are like, oh, he's famous for, almost being shot at in Florida and being anti-gun. Let's admit him. Why?
Right.
That's because when Harvard stopped being Harvard.
Because of, I think probably even before that, when they give honorary degrees to, celebrities. This is the thing. This is what Harvard is a freaking joke now.
It's become a joke.
It's become a joke. It's been a joke for decades. And now they've become so leftist. They've become like the poster college for wokeness. That people are like, enough already. If you're going to get federal funding, you have to answer some questions. Okay, if you're not going to do that, then buy with the funding.
Yeah.
You don't get it anymore. This is not difficult, so then don't whine about it when you don't get it.
Right. And then maybe don't reward the worst people on your campus, which they clearly did. So one of 2 Harvard students who assaulted a Jewish classmate during a protest in October of 2023 was just appointed as class marshal by Harvard Divinity School at their upcoming graduation ceremony. And the other assailant was awarded a $65,000 Harvard Law School fellowship to work at CARE.
Yeah.
And they're like, why are we being targeted?
We don't understand, because you're training your students to be, pro Hamas terrorists. That's what you're doing. You can, if you want to do the whole Goodwill Hunting thing, be Will and go get your education out of a library. It's the same thing. And you can save 80 grand a year. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
I swear there needs to be like a serious consideration needs to be given to developing some sort of a medication to fight TDS and all of these things that happen as a result of it. Unfortunately, that medication does not exist, not even at our friends at allfamilypharmacy.com/chicks. Maybe someday that will be a medication that is on their list of over 200 medications that you can actually get on your own without having to go to a doctor's office, without having to go to an urgent care clinic. When the you know what hits the fan, it is always good to be prepared, not just with your bottled water and your emergency food, but also with medications for yourself and your family. Antibiotics that you may need. Maybe you need ivermectin. Maybe you need hydroxychloroquine. Maybe you just want to have your regular prescriptions that you take maybe for your high blood pressure or whatever, from allfamilypharmacy.com/chicks. They've got amazing pricing. They make it affordable and accessible. And you can get 20% off of your entire order when you use code CHICKS20, CHICKS20 at allfamilypharmacy.com. Well, and very few people are so eloquent about the working class as Batya Ungar-Sargon, who is celebrating the fact that Trump is targeting Harvard and other elite institutions like Harvard in favor of redirecting some of those billions of dollars of our money into trade schools, which will actually help the working class. And here she is to say it better than anybody else could. Here is Batya.
People go to these universities, they get this degree, turns out at $2 billion of taxpayer expense, and then turn around and enact policy that actually hurts the very people who are the reason that they were able to become so successful. It's not just that people who go to these institutions are fabulously wealthy and more successful and working class people are struggling, but that from that perch of immense privilege, they have contempt for the hardest working people. And what Trump is basically doing is saying, actually, no, we're actually not going to do this anymore. We're not going to make the hardest working people subsidize the lives of the fabulously wealthy. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to take $3 billion from Harvard and give it to trade schools so that working class people can afford to buy homes. This stuff is just, I can't tell you, Mark, how much joy it brings me straight into my veins.
Yeah, inject it, man. Inject it right into our veins.
Right,
and
it's
true. And it's antithetical to what all the liberals have been saying for years, which is, Republicans are for the wealthy, blah, blah, blah. No, you guys are. And Batya is the one who has that great clip. I put it on our Instagram. I know we put it everywhere. She's the one that talks about like who actually gives to what party. And the wealthy, it's like Democrats they're the rich people. They're the rich ones. They're the elitist jerks that they say that they're fighting against. They are them. And we are the working class now. And so I love this. I love this turnaround. I love how he's taken this money and he's going to inject it back into the working class because that's who we are.
I mean, I love her.
I love her too.
And I love seeing the pushback against all of this Harvard stuff because it's so absurd on its face that they couldn't just do the right thing in the beginning. And now they're like, well, in addition to not doing the right thing, we're going to reward the perpetrators and we're going to complain about not wanting to give you just basic information about our student body that you're requesting. Right. Please continue to give us billions of dollars. What?
Right.
Screw you, Harvard.